Good morning and welcome to South Sound Connection Live. I know you all have been just distraught. I think we took 2 weeks off. I'd say we apologize, but we don't. So hopefully you survived and you're back and just ready to hear what our guests have to say. South Sound Connection is brought to you by All-American Restoration Services and the DYOJO Podcast. And this is all about promoting things that are happening in and around the Pacific Northwest and beyond. So without further ado, let's bring on our first guest. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
How goes Alison?
It's good. It's nice that it's not raining.
We've been definitely lucky the last couple days, weeks with great weather. So we've interacted over LinkedIn a couple of times and reached out and did the interview with what you do in and around Tacoma. One thing I love, your motto on your website, which we have up on the screen, is empowering small business to grow and connect. And so 2020 put a test to that, right? As far as like creating challenges, learning new ways to do that. So what was some of the things that you learned or came out of your experience in 2020?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned or that was reinforced for me out of 2020 is that community is everything. That small businesses that were tapped into their local community survived at a much higher rate than businesses that were not tapped in, like that didn't have real connections with their local community. And social media is a really amazing way to do that. And so businesses that utilize social media in a way to really genuinely connect with their customers are much more likely to survive these really crazy times. But as I was prepping for this morning, I remembered that I saw a statistic that Black-owned businesses have closed at twice the rate of white-owned businesses in 2020, which means that while we're focusing on our community and we're supporting each other, we are not doing enough for the Black-owned businesses in our community. So that's just something that's been on my mind lately.
That was nationwide? That wasn't necessarily a local statistic?
Correct. That's from the National Bureau of Economics, I believe. So it would have been a national statistic. I mean, and you are seeing that a little bit locally as well. I don't have statistics on it, but there's definitely a big need to support local Black-owned businesses on a consistent basis, because what happened last year was that there was an influx of support for Black-owned businesses, and then people got frustrated that they couldn't necessarily meet the demand, and then canceled their orders or stopped ordering. And so what we need to do is be thinking about this on a grand scale. How do we support Black-owned businesses and businesses of color all the time, not during Black History Month or not specifically during Black History Month, but on an ongoing basis? How can we change our habits to make sure that we're taking these businesses into account?
Well, I think that's, it's almost, Amazon's done a great job, right? You get it instantly, right? And not all small businesses operate that way, and especially businesses that have had to adapt to the online marketplace. So have a little patience, right? People are still, not everybody has the resources of an Amazon to adapt their systems right away. And I know there's still businesses that are, we do that just like even on a small scale. I wrote a couple of books, and publishing it on Amazon is way easier. They handle all the distribution, as opposed to people trying to get it locally. So like you said, you're at the heart of the effort to help small businesses. Your community, you focus on women-owned businesses and those kinds of things. And a lot of those are micro businesses, right? Or maybe what we'd call side hustles. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's somewhat accurate. I work with a range of businesses. So my heart is for women-owned businesses, but I work with all kinds of businesses. Sure. So I work with a lot of real estate agents, which I think would probably not be considered a micro business. I work with local chains, and I have a car dealership that's a client. So It can really be any size business can benefit from social media and sort of business development consulting, which is what I do. I do run a Facebook group, and a lot of people in that group are sort of micro businesses and or maybe what they have sort of a side business. But what's really interesting is that, a lot of moms in particular start businesses after they have kids because they can't or they don't want to go back to the same environment that they were in. For example, I used to work 50 or 60 hours a week every week in DC. So when I had kids and I had to make a choice between going back, it wasn't like, oh, I can go back 30 hours a week and still pick my kids up at school. I would have had to go back to 50 or 60 hours a week, which is one of the reasons I work for myself now. So a lot of women start businesses in part due to sort of that environment of not having the flexibility in a normal work environment to work part-time or 30 hours. And so, but because they don't have a business background, it's really hard to kind of get that momentum going. They might not understand marketing or taxes or accounting, things like that. So we have a Facebook group called Nurture Tacoma Women and Non-Binary Business Support Group. It's a little clunky, but we talk a lot about all these different processes in there, and people are really free with their advice, which is really lovely. So if anybody identifies as a woman or non-binary person and is looking for that support, it's a great group. I think we have 1,100 local members at this point.
Jeez, yeah, they're not small by any means. Yeah, and I hope that I don't mean side hustle or micro business in any way to denigrate. I mean, I think that's how you test your business idea, right? I mean, the difference between my daughter's 18 and she's starting to kind of express her entrepreneurial and like the difference between a hobby and a business is getting people to pay for it, right? That's the first hurdle, and then testing the concept and then building something up. But exactly like you said, if you want some flexibility and to be able to still be at home and raise a family, that's the nice thing about it is there's fairly low barriers to entry to any kind of business that you want to run nowadays. But it's also, like you said, a lot harder. Why do you think? Why are people still scared of social media or averse to playing with the platform and utilizing that for their businesses?
I think that what I hear from a lot of people is that they got on social media because they thought that it was going to be this be-all, end-all sort of marketing platform.
Sure,
and then they felt like they had to post every day or even multiple times a day. I had a client at one point who was posting 3 to 4 times a day, and then they get burned out almost immediately. Like within 1 to 4 weeks, usually they get burned out. And so most of what I do has these sort of two concurrent sort of themes. One is efficiency. How do you get on social media and do what you need to do in an efficient way so that you're not wasting your time and you're also not wasting your customers and your supporters' time? And then how do you get online on social media in a way that benefits your local community, that supports your local community, that builds community? So when people approach social media from a strict marketing perspective, it's really easy to get burned out. But if you approach social media as a community building exercise and as a way to support other people in your community, I think it actually gives you like a little more energy for it. It gives you like a little oomph in your step, and you get excited about posting and you get excited about being able to share, especially in Tacoma. We have so many amazing small businesses in Tacoma. It's actually why I got into this, because I saw so many amazing small businesses that weren't connected to each other. And I'd say, oh, you do this amazing thing, you must know this other person. And the answer was always no. And I was like, why don't these people know each other? Like they should know each other. And so that was the origin of the Nurture online group, was just trying to get people to get to know each other, to collaborate, to support each other. Because Tacoma just has this wealth of talent and artistry and imagination. And it's just about like, how do you bring people together so that, because once I think you collaborate, you just have these amazing things that wouldn't have happened on their own. And so people, when they see social media, like in the same perspective as like a newspaper ad, then they can get frustrated when it doesn't like immediately bring people in, or it doesn't have like an ROI or a return on investment that they were expecting. And so I encourage my clients to think of social media more or as much as a community building tool, as a marketing tool, because I think it gives you longevity. It gives you a sense of like, I'm not doing this for me for right now. I'm also doing this for my community long term. And that's kind of a little tricky right now, right? Because so many businesses are struggling, like literally they're on the verge of closing. So to tell them, oh, focus on your community can feel a little frustrating, I think, to them. But the idea is that when you support your community through social media, it actually builds your own business. So I talk a lot in my classes about wayfinding, which is an architectural term that means like how easy is it to find a place if you don't have a map? And so we talk about wayfinding on social media to mean like what like breadcrumbs are you dropping for your customers about your business? So let's say I'm in the Stadium District and I own a coffee shop. I might want to highlight the chocolate shop that's in Stadium, take a picture of the outside, post about it and say, I love that I can pop over on my lunch break and it's a 2-minute walk to go get the best chocolate in Tacoma. And here's why. So what you're doing is you're supporting that local business, but you're also reminding people that you are in Stadium. So what's going to happen is the next time they drive by that chocolate shop, they're going to say, oh, that coffee shop is by here. I should stop and get a chai or whatever. So a lot of the things that we can do on social media to support our community on the back end also remind people of the community that you're situated in. So especially if you're a brick and mortar business, this can be a really successful strategy to bring in foot traffic, to get people to remember where you are. So especially there's like a lot of businesses in Tacoma that aren't right on the street, right? Like it's a little tricky to find them. So those kinds of businesses really should focus on reminding people of the neighborhood that they're in, of how to get to them. And so when you start doing that and you see these businesses sort of building up their neighborhood on social media, it not only benefits those businesses, it also benefits that whole neighborhood. And then on the back end, it benefits your business because you're effectively building brand recognition that's connected to the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's really good. Create the win-wins, right?
Yeah, exactly. And to me, social media that focuses on like business growth through genuine connection and then has like an add-on of sort of supporting your community is a win on like 17 different levels. There's like so many knock-on effects that are really positive, including just reminding people, like you said earlier, that small businesses can't necessarily deliver your product within 24 hours. So social media can be used as a platform to generate conversations about like the shipping delays that the USPS is having right now, or what like shipping products you use and whether your products are sustainable. And so you can actually drive consumer conversations around sustainability and customer service and expectations. And so it's really this amazing, like I call it a democratizing platform because everyone has the same access to it. Like, yes, you can pay for ads, but most people ignore ads, honestly, on social media. And so I tend to encourage my clients to not do paid ads, or at least not start there. And focus just on genuine connection, because I see accounts that are small, maybe 300-400 followers, that have this lovely, beautiful engagement and this trusting relationship building with between the client and the business. And then I see large brands, with 30,000, 50,000 followers, just sort of throwing out, just like generic posts. And I'm like, which one is more successful? And if you look at like what it's bringing in and the feelings that it's creating and the trust that it's creating, those small businesses that are able to really connect in a genuine way with their customers, they're the ones that are succeeding on social media. Yeah,
I like that. Like you talked about, highlight another local business in your area. And it's funny because I think sometimes small business thinks, well, we're a small business, people should just support us. And it's like, well, you have those barriers, right? You're not as fast as Amazon, so you have to offset that somehow, right? So your service, your engagement. But that's and we've talked about a couple other people that are on that. A lot of people are uncomfortable bragging on themselves, right? And so exactly like you said, so brag on somebody else, set the example, and then hopefully they'll return the favor. Hint, hint, if somebody's shouted you out, return the favor.
And I encourage my clients to think about it in this way. Like if somebody reposts something that you've done or returns the favor, that's fantastic. But don't approach it as though that's the ultimate goal, because, sometimes I'll share 10 things in a day and I don't necessarily want 10 people, sharing back, something of mine. I just want to share the lovely things in the community. But it is great when people do return the favor or reshare. Yep. One time I posted about a story time that the local soccer team did, and they like reshared it to their stories to their 40,000 followers. And I was like, oh my God, because that was not like my intention. And so it was really nice, and it made me feel really good about that company, right? That they went out of their way to share that. So one of the things when you're talking about like people having a hard time bragging about themselves is I strongly encourage my clients to write down your value proposition and then actually practice it. Practice coming out of your mouth. So you need to be able to say this elevator pitch, which is like, some people say that an elevator pitch should be 30 seconds. I say like 10 to 15. You need to be able to tell people in one sentence what you sell, who it's for, and how it's different from your competitors. And if you can't do that, your customers can't either. So if you can't say, I'm a small business consultant that teaches other small businesses how to use social media in a way that builds community, right? It was a little clunky, but that's my tagline. If you can't say that, then if somebody is like, oh, I'm looking for a business consultant, and you say, oh, maybe Alison Bishins. Well, why Alison Bishins? If I've never communicated my value proposition and the things that are important to me and the things that I do well, then why would your customer be able to go on and refer you for those things either? So I literally encourage people to like stand in front of a mirror and practice their elevator pitch and their value proposition until it rolls off your tongue. I'm a little rusty, so mine didn't because COVID, like I haven't interacted with humans in a year. But practice it and get comfortable with it, because if you don't believe in your product and you don't believe in your value proposition, when you go to talk to people about your product, it's not going to come off as authentic. So you have to believe in yourself and your product, and you have to be able to brag about yourself. The other thing is that women especially are taught to be humble. We're conditioned socially to not brag about ourselves and not say like, I'm the best social media teacher if you want to learn about how to use social media as a local community building tool. It took me years to be able to say that in a way that I actually believed it, right? Because we have imposter syndrome and we are taught to be humble. And I encourage my clients, like, find what you feel comfortable saying, find ways to talk about yourself that you feel comfortable about, because I don't think you have to position yourself as an expert, which is what a lot of people will tell you about social media, but you do have to position yourself as someone who knows what they're doing, who knows how to, tackle problems and handle crises. And once you've done that, and it builds you up as well. Like you get that confidence and it sort of just snowballs. So if you haven't written the value proposition down and practiced it and really like dived into that, then it's time to do that.
Step in front of the mirror. Yeah. Get uncomfortable. Well, because you're in business, so you've got to deal with a certain level of discomfort, right? Man, drop in gems. Thank you, Alison. I know you've got some travel plans. So any last, we got the website, AlisonBishins.com. Anything else that you got coming up that you want people to be aware of?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm doing a workshop on April 8th called Modern Margins at Work, and it's part of this art project sponsored by granted by the Tacoma Arts Commission, and the workshop is on the gender experience at work. And we have some amazing speakers, and it'll be like a speakers and conversation, and then some time to do small group networking. And it's a ticketed event. You do have to sign up in advance, but there's scholarships. So if you need a scholarship, just message me and I'll give you the scholarship code, and no questions asked. There's no application or anything. So if anybody's looking to connect, that's a great way to do it.
And that's right on the website, which we have up /events. I can see it right there. So
that's right. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, and we'll have to have you on again. And thank you for all that you're doing. Seriously, I'm like scribbling notes down as you're talking. So.
I do have free content on Skillshare that you can access with a 2-day trial. So if you go to my website and then /resources, it'll say like free resources, and you can click on that, sign up for a Skillshare. I think I have 6 or 7 sort of shorter classes on there. And if you don't have a budget to take classes or to hire a consultant right now, that's a great way to just kind of get jump started on your social media. I recommend starting with the simplified social media. It's about a 40-minute class. And it really just breaks down not like what are all of the things that you could do on social media, but what do you actually need to do like during COVID that connects with your customers and that builds your brand.
Awesome. Okay. Well, like I said, we got the website. It'll be in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Let's see. Okay. She brought up wayfinding. I think that was a forecast, a foreshadowing, some synergy. So without further ado, let's bring in Jason. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How's my audio?
Very good. Very good. I don't know if you heard Alison dropped wayfinding in her comments. So is that so your business is called Arcade Wayfinding? Is that part of the nomenclature, the value proposition that you guys provide?
Yeah, so we provide that. Our name is a bit of a double entendre. So arcade, the idea is that an arcade is an architectural feature. So it's an arch, right? Roman arches, viaducts, that sort of thing is an arcade.
Okay.
So it's beautiful, it's timeless, it's strong, but it's also where you go to play video games. Right?
Yep.
So arcade is the first bit, and then wayfinding is behind the idea that we help you find your way. So our tagline, as Alison was sharing, is we help construction companies grow up.
Yep.
Right. That is who we are. That is what we do. We kind of have a mantra that is, we don't grow up, we just get bigger. Right. We're kind of the same kids that we always were. And that's kind of the spirit behind the business that we run in helping construction companies and individuals grow up. Yeah.
Well, and a big piece, you guys have a beautiful office there in Seattle. A big piece is people coming to interacting with you as the instructors and then interacting with each other and growing up together, right? We all know that the physical interaction, the is oftentimes as valuable as the courses themselves. So how did 2020 kind of throw maybe into quickly into adapting to the virtual space and still trying to capture some of the value of being together in a classroom?
Yeah, so we were definitely thrown a curveball with COVID, and we found that, our kind of niche is in person, is very tangible, is very tactile. We get people up and moving around and breathing and laughing. And obviously with COVID, that presented a challenge for us. So we were able to, we quickly recognized that we were going to have a bunch of people sitting at home. And there were going to be a lot of people sitting at home being paid to work from home. And they're not going to have a whole lot to do. They're all kind of derailed. So a bit of our time was spent helping some of those companies make that transition in actuality. And then a bit of our time was spent providing remote training, distance training for all the folks who are kind of locked in their own homes. And so we came up with a number of methods and tactics to make the learning fun, to keep everybody engaged. So we're using many of our same techniques. At the end of the day, though, it is not the same. Training in person is not the same as remote training. Our number one goal is retention. So if you don't have aha moments that stick with you for the rest of your life, what was the point? Why in the world did you spend time with us? So what we're ultimately trying to do is set the environment so that we get as many of those aha moments as possible. So we take the approach of, everybody had kind of a spirit mentor. Everybody had somebody who you looked up to, who took a chance on you. For some people, it's their shop teacher or football coach or Spanish teacher, whoever it was.
Sure.
And usually, if prompted, we could say, this person said something that is burnt into your brain. And you will never forget it. Those are the moments that we try to create with our training and with our work. Much
more difficult via the virtual, but the upside is it creates a lot more access, right? I mean, people can get to the information as well.
And I think there are benefits to every every challenge. But I think one of the benefits is that we had the opportunity, we had the access to have a lot of conversations with folks that we otherwise wouldn't have had.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. A lot broader. So one of my favorite things when we met, and then, you know, looking at various posts and stuff like that, something that's close to my heart is you talk a lot about promotion without preparation, where people are like, hey, you're the boss now, you know, go, you're very talented in some kind of skill, right? Some tactile skill. So now why don't you manage people, you know, because those are the same.
So that is super common in our industry, where you have the top producers. These are people who are fast. They work with their hands, they're quick, they understand how to create the process. And then we recognize that because they're fast, we need to put them in a position of power. And they need to lead people, but we haven't given them any tools or
translate.
No, we haven't prepared them at all. And so one of the interesting things that I've learned over COVID, I spent a lot of time talking with Cabri Lerman-Schmid, who's superintendent for Hensel Phelps, and she is very active in suicide awareness in construction. And in construction, we have the second highest rate of suicide of any industry.
Wow.
Under mining. The same also follows with alcohol abuse and drug abuse. So we are number 2 in all of those things in the industry. And if you look at leading indicators of suicide, promotion without preparation is a key component, leading indicator of whether or not someone will lose their life to suicide. So we're in the business of putting people in positions that they're not prepared for. And so we create training. We have a foreman basic training program and a PM basic training program. We identify that those are 2 key roles that require much more preparation than they get. And we will typically take people and just throw them into the deep water. And let's say 10% of them can figure out how to swim.
Yeah.
Right? So they were going to swim one way or the other, but we haven't prepared them or trained them or graduated them into that. The other 90%, they just drown. And we discount those people based on a defect inside of them. We say it was their fault. Some people just aren't strong enough. But I'll tell you what, if you throw 100 babies into a pool and maybe 10% would swim on their own, that is not a good way to build a culture or build a people. So we try to create that training opportunity so that people can learn how to swim. They have the tools that they need to be successful. And that's the spirit behind our core training programs.
I would, it seems a lot of industries adjacent, you know, do the same. You know, it's you're performing in an area. And like you said, I think a lot of it too, you know, what happens is with the retention, somebody gets so frustrated that they've had to train themselves, then they take their talents elsewhere. So you've paid for their learning curve, and then they're going to be successful somewhere else, you know.
Well, and I think that when you manage that way and when you train that way and promote that way, we're living in an industry based on fear. Right? We're having this fear of the unknown. We're afraid of what we don't know. We're afraid of what we haven't been trained. And if you can, so all emotions and all decisions come out of one of 2 feelings, one of 2 emotions, either love or fear. When you operate from a place of fear, you're going to get a certain outcome. When you operate from a place of love, you're going to get a very different outcome.
Which is odd to talk about in the skilled trades, right? You know, that's not, but it's, you
say odd to talk about, but I think that's the conversation that we need to get people comfortable with. So in our last foreman basic training program, we have these people for 8 weeks, and then they have to give a presentation, a high pressure presentation to a panel of senior industry leaders. Every person in the class admitted that they were nervous as hell. But the counterpoint to that is every person in the class was comfortable sharing that.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Right. So that's the environment that we need to create, where everybody is comfortable sharing what makes them uncomfortable.
And leading by example in that regard. So one of the things you and I interacted about, and something that you're excited about, is this Build the Circle. And so tell us, for people that don't know what that is, what is Build the Circle, and why is Arcade Wayfinding, trying to help promote that?
Yeah, so we came out of 2020 with a lot of lessons, with a lot of information, and I feel like I know myself better than I did going into it.
Yeah.
One of the things that became very apparent to me was that not everybody had the same opportunity that I did. So many of us who work in construction were born in construction. We have fathers and grandfathers and uncles in construction. When we first put our tool bags on, we've been learning construction for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a cultural piece that exists. We recognize that women and underrepresented folks don't have a significant role in the industry. If you look at the population, we don't have anywhere close to representation. So we recognize that we need to do something in order to increase leadership. Here's a fun fact. If you look at the percentage of English second language workers in construction, they occupy about 35% of the labor population. They represent under 3% of leadership.
Yeah.
Right. So when we're filling our classes for foreman basic training and project manager basic training, we reach out to the companies and we say, please give preference to women and to underrepresented folks when you're deciding who to send to this leadership class. And what we find is that by and large, they're mostly people that look like you and me. And the reason why, what's that?
You're handsome and
no, just middle-aged white guys, right? And
pretty boring, basic white dudes, right? Yeah,
that's right. Because those are the people who get it. Those are the people who are leadership material. Yeah. And then when you kind of dig a little deeper, you find that they actually, the big companies in the area have very few women who would be candidates for leadership. Very few minorities who would be candidates for leadership. And we recognize that there is a pipeline problem there. One of the common grumblings that I'll hear is that there aren't enough talented folks in the industry. We can't find people. We can't find talented people. Millennials don't want to work. Gen Zers don't want to work, right?
Yeah.
But if we're focusing on 35-40% of the population as the total work pool, then we're self-limiting the amount of talent that we could potentially be pulling from.
Yeah.
So the purpose of Build the Circle is that we recognize that we have those challenges with women, getting more women into leadership, getting more Black voices into leadership, getting more English second language forces and folks into leadership. And the primary focus of Build the Circle is to give access to those folks who don't currently have that opportunity and help them to build the network that I was born into, that many of us were born into, that these folks never had a chance to connect with. So the symbolism of Build the Circle is that we're literally manually putting this circle together of community and of network to give people access to leadership and leadership tools that otherwise wouldn't have them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not trying to plug. We wrote this book, Be Intentional Culture, in chapter 9. Dr. Leroy Nunnery, he talks about how the lack of diversity is actually directly impacting companies. He talked about one study. The most gender diverse firms experience 15% stronger EBITDA in 2014 than their industry counterparts, and 22% higher EBITDA in 2017. So those companies invested in diversity, not just a blanket diversity, but allowing people that to have access. Like you said, it directly impacted their bottom line. So
and I think that ownership groups are recognizing that as a problem. So we just worked with a major contractor in the area, and they put in a bid for a public works project, and they were denied. They lost that project because their leadership team was not diverse enough. Yeah. So I think that whether you like it or not, whether it's your favorite thing or not, you can do this for the right reason, or you can do it because it is the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think that we are better problem solvers when we're more diverse. The more different our backgrounds are, the more different we'll think. If you put a group full of the same person in one room, you're going to come up with the same set of answers.
Yeah.
If you put a group of people who are truly different with truly different backgrounds into that same room, you're going to come up with a whole host of answers. But the key to it is that everyone has to be able to bring their authentic selves. Yeah. Everybody has to feel safe in sharing their personality and sharing who they are.
Yeah. Lots of work to do all around, right?
Yeah. And I see it as there's a lot of work to do, but we also have the greatest opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we have the most distance to travel, I think more than most industries do, it means that we have the greatest ability to improve.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of fear, what happens if I do this or that, protecting. Unfortunately, it's a lot of the systems are built up to just protect your position as opposed to actually, creating change or making things better. So what if somebody wants to know more about Build the Circle and get involved with that effort, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so Build the Circle info is on our site at arcadewayfinding.com. But if you want to jump straight there, the address for that is build-the-circle.com.
Build the Circle. Okay.
Yeah. And so the critical roles that we're looking to fill right now are partner companies. So these are the companies and organizations that sponsor students. They put in the cash and contribute to the effort. GLY Construction has contributed. NAWIC has contributed. We have Economic Alliance of Snohomish has contributed. So those are our partner organizations. There we go. So we have a number of companies and organizations that are bravely stepping forward saying, we recognize this is a problem. We want to actually do something about it. We want to take an action and do something about it. And this gives them an opportunity to put their money where their mouth is. Yeah. And there are a lot of great folks partnering with us in that effort. They also agree that after the students go through the program, they agree to have a sit-down meeting with the student that they've sponsored to develop a network, to have a Q&A, to help build their own circle, so that they can start to develop the network of folks that they will use over the course of their career. Yeah. So those are the partner companies. And then we have mentors, and these are folks who help us identify viable candidates for the program. These are people who are entrenched in the community. These are people who know the community and underserved communities very well, and they're able to identify the most talented folks who will be successful in our programs.
Very cool. Well, yeah, I'm looking at the website, the Arcade Wayfinding website. So love what you guys are doing. You've got the podcast as well, right?
Yep. Does
that drop every week the same time?
Yeah, so we try to put one up every Thursday. That is our rough schedule, every Thursday around noon or so.
Yep.
Yeah, that's called the criticalpathpodcast.com.
And that's
everything, you can find all of that on arcadewayfinding.com.
Yep. I'm looking at that now. So, well, awesome, Jason. Well, thank you. I'm glad we were finally able to touch base virtually again. Any other closing thoughts, encouragement for growth-minded professionals as you're continuing to work through 2021?
Yeah. Well, I think a piece that I'll leave you with is that construction tends to be filled with some of the more conservative voices, and I'm not talking about politics here. Sure. I'm talking about relationship with change. So, it makes sense why we are this way, because we build structures, we build bridges, we build houses, things to keep people safe. So it makes sense that we don't want to be big risk takers. We don't want to try something completely new when we know this has always worked and it will not fall down and kill people. Yeah, makes sense. However, over the last 10 years or so, we've changed more than we've ever changed as a people. Yeah. Even more than the Industrial Revolution, faster than any point in time. So it's important that we are willing to think a little bit differently, that we're willing to consider that there could be a different way, than the way that it's been done for the last several hundred years.
Yeah, yeah. Open yourself and your company up to opportunities, right? So
yeah, don't get left in the dust.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you again, Jason. We got the website up there, and that's the best way for people to get to know about what you all are doing. And hopefully we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, you're welcome. Again, we keep landing talented guests, thankfully, and just lots of really cool things happening in the Pacific Northwest, in the South Sound and beyond. So two great resources for you personally and professionally. So hope you enjoyed, and we will see you all next week. Same time, same bat channel. Thank you. Boom. Another South Sound Connection live. SSC live. In the bag, as the kids say. Yep, we got the shirts for 2021. Brian Close of All American Restoration Services out of Tacoma designed this sweet design that has some of the skyline views from Tacoma, Washington, obviously with the retro Seattle Supersonics, vibes. So got these made by Single Speed Screen Printing, who was a guest on the show. Even people that root for the Blazers can do good work.
LeBron James.
So we hear this all the time. We're on the street. What is a South Sound connection? We're just trying to highlight good things in the Pacific Northwest and adjacent, entrepreneurs, business owners, artists, community leaders. You've probably seen about us, you've heard about us. We've had Corbett Mosley talking about his game success factors, Lindsay Ward, who won the September 2020 challenge, Kevin Bates from Helping Hands House, Adam Norwest, we gave away some free burritos from Grit City Breakfast in Tacoma. Crystal Hart Meeker, Save Albany Now. Tony Taylor talking about supporting and hiring veterans and his inspirational talks. Chad Curligan, The Men, Emotions and Music. Meg Hawks with Single Speed Screen Printing. Mindy Baker with the Beautiful Tacoma Murals. Ken Brown talking about community involvement as an organization. Corbett Mosley again gave us an update. And most recently, Jack Cameron from Tacoma Stories and Sierra Hartman from Grit City Magazine talking about keep telling good stories. So that's what our goal is. Like I said, All American, if you see this logo around town, they're a local general contractor that specializes in insurance claims, water, fire damage repairs. They can help you work with your insurance company and get your house back to pre-loss conditions, as we say. And also the DYOJO Podcast. The DYOJO Podcast. That's thedyojo.com/SSC if you want to know more about this show. And just a quick pitch. I wrote my second book. This is a collaborative effort on culture, developing a thriving culture, talking about taking care of your culture because it takes care of your people, which leads to taking care of your customers, which leads to taking care of your profits. So you can check that out on the website as well. But please check out our great guests. Check out our sponsors, All American Restoration Services and the DYOJO Podcast. And if you hear something that you think should be shouted out, please let us know. Thank you. Have a great Pacific Northwest day, and we'll see you next week, every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. South Sound Connection, SSC Live. Hit me with that outro music from Pat F. and Brown, Cosmonaut Coffee.